Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this is one story you don't want to miss. What I experienced changed everything, and I promise, it will hold your attention till the very end. The house was unusually silent that Saturday afternoon. Almost too quiet. It was the kind of quiet that feels like a gift, one of those rare moments when the world seems to pause. Everyone else was out, busy with errands, friends, or chores, leaving me alone to finally sink into the worn sofa, wrapped in a blanket I hadn't touched in weeks. I pulled out the book I'd been meaning to read for months, the one gathering dust on the shelf, and allowed myself to lose track of time, flipping through pages slowly, savoring the rare piece. For a few minutes, nothing existed outside this room. No noise, no interruptions, just me and the quiet rhythm of a weekend afternoon. And then it happened. A muffled thump, soft but deliberate, echoed from upstairs. Thump! My chest tightened. I froze mid-breath, eyes straining toward the ceiling. Another thump followed, this time accompanied by a strange, stifled sound, like someone trying to hold back tears. The boy wasn't supposed to be home. He had told me he'd spend the entire day at a friend's house. Maybe he returned early? Or maybe something fell. But no, the sound wasn't ordinary. It had a rhythm, a subtle tension that pulled unease from deep inside me. I set the book down carefully, the quiet now feeling heavier, almost oppressive, and I started up the stairs, each step slower than the last, trying not to make a sound. His door was slightly ajar. Strange. He was always private, almost to the point of shutting the world out. And yet here it was ajar, as if inviting curiosity, or warning against it. As I approached, the sounds became clearer. The creak of the bed springs shifting under weight. A choked breath. A faint gasp. Not playful. Not careless. Distress. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Should I turn back? Maybe it was nothing. But another sharp breath, raw with fear, propelled me forward. Slowly, carefully, I nudged the door open just an inch. What I saw made my heart stop. He was perched at the edge of the bed, hunched, shirt sticking to his back with sweat. His hands gripped the blanket with such intensity that his knuckles were white. Every muscle in his body seemed to tense against some invisible weight, as though bracing himself for an unseen danger. And the fear, real, palpable fear, radiated from him in waves. This wasn't the shy teenager who had moved in months ago. This was someone unraveling before my eyes. I stepped back instinctively, overwhelmed by the rawness of the moment. Questions swarmed my mind. Was he hurt? Was he sick? Had someone been here? And then, my foot caught the edge of the hallway rug. A small yelp escaped me, louder than intended. Instantly, the sounds from his room stopped. Silence. And then barely audible. Mom. His voice was hoarse, raw, trembling. Not embarrassed, not playful. Frightened. My pulse spiked. Something was very, very wrong. I pushed the door open fully, stepping inside carefully. He sat upright, clutching the blanket to his chest, eyes wide, glossy, exposed. Not physically but emotionally. The vulnerability radiating from him made the air between us thick and charged. I didn't know you were home, he whispered. I heard a noise, I replied softly, keeping my voice calm, careful not to startle him. Are you okay? You sounded upset. He stared at the wall. His chest rose and fell too quickly, like he was trying to fight off a panic attack. I'm fine, he murmured, but his trembling hands and the tight grip on the blanket said otherwise. I sat on the edge of the bed, leaving a respectful space between us. You don't have to tell me anything, I said gently. But you're shaking. Something's happened. He remained silent for a long moment, then muttered, barely audible. You won't tell him, right? Without hesitation, I replied, never. This stays between us. Relief washed over his features, mingled with the weight of something much heavier. His vulnerability was almost painful to witness. Thank you, he whispered again. And this time, I could feel the sincerity in it. He looked at me, truly looked, for the first time since he'd moved in. In that moment, I reached out instinctively, placing my hand gently on his arm, just above the blanket. His skin was warmer than expected, and for a fleeting second I paused, startled by the unexpected heat. He didn't pull away. Instead, he glanced at my hand, then up at me. His eyes asked a question without words. "It's nothing to be ashamed of," I said softly, keeping my voice low, almost a whisper. My thumb brushed along his arm, and he shivered slightly. Whether it was fear, cold, or something he couldn't voice, I didn't know. But neither of us moved away. He began to speak, then stopped. Words caught in his throat. His eyes fell to the blanket again, gripping it as if it were the only anchor left. "I know," I murmured. "It can feel like too much. All at once." I let my hands rest lightly near the edge of the blanket. It was a small gesture, but it was enough to give him the space to breathe. He finally looked up again, searching my face, as if asking silently for guidance. How do people deal with it?" he asked. I realized then that this wasn't about curiosity. It was fear, a deep, gnawing fear of something he couldn't yet name. "Sometimes," I said gently, "you start by understanding what scares you, what feels wrong, what doesn't make sense." He swallowed, throat bobbing nervously, pulse racing. His hands trembled slightly on the blanket. I reached toward it, not to intrude, but to offer him a choice. My eyes silently asked, "Do you want to show me? Do you trust me?" He didn't nod, he didn't speak, but he didn't stop me either. With care, I lifted the blanket just enough to see what he'd been hiding. And my breath caught, not from shock, but fear for him. Bruises. Dark, painful wrong. Not self-inflicted. Not accidental. Someone else had done this. He flushed, not from embarrassment, but relief. Relief that someone had finally seen the truth he had carried alone. "You're okay," I whispered, steadying my voice. "You're safe now." His shoulders shook as tension eased. His trembling fingers brushed my sleeve. Not seeking anything inappropriate, only seeking someone who would stay, someone who would listen. I turned fully toward him. This was not about desire. This was about protection, about understanding, about survival. "Do you think it will happen again?" he whispered. A chill ran through me. The bruises, the panic, the secrecy. This was danger, not shame. I pressed a soft, protective kiss to his forehead. "If it does, you tell me first. This stays between us." He nodded quickly, gripping my hand like a lifeline. Our secret. A vow, a warning, a plea. We stayed there, long after the quiet had returned, the house feeling watchful, alive with tension. Something had changed. Not just in him, but in the air around us. And I knew in my gut that the days ahead would only get darker.